All right, we are in. Ellen, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Dylan.
So good to have you in.
So good to be here for a second time.
A second time.
I feel very grateful.
Feel grateful? How you feeling? Good?
Yeah, feeling really good. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. I'm really excited for what we're going to be talking about today.
Me too.
Because it's a pretty big journey that we've gone on. And for everybody at home, what we're talking about today, me and my beautiful girlfriend, Ellen, we recently went and took part in an ayahuasca journey experience, which was massive in so many ways, right?
Yeah. To put it in one word, yeah, I like massive.
Yeah. It was big. It was big. It was a big experience, big feelings, and a lot of insights along the way. And it's something that I won't speak for you on this, but it's something that I've personally wanted to do for a really long time, but I just didn't know when I was going to do it. I was happy to do it now or in 10 years' time, just when the time was right. But the time was right, and feeling really blessed to go and take part in something like that.
Yeah, me too. And it's so cool that we get to now talk about it and share some thoughts and feelings with people that want to know more. So thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to talk about it.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So for everybody at home, just to give you a little bit of an idea, I'm not going to get too much into the science side of things or the history side of things when it comes to ayahuasca. There's heaps of really good resources and other podcasts out there that outline those things to do with ayahuasca. This is really to do with our personal experience. But to give everybody a rough idea of what it is, ayahuasca is traditionally known as a plant medicine, and it's used or originates from South America in the Amazon, and it's a plant-based medicine derived from combining some different sacred plants together to be able to release the chemical compound or the psychoactive compound that's in it is DMT, which you may have heard of, or its full name is dimethyltryptamine. And like I said, I'm not going to go too into the science of what this compound actually is, but I've heard it be said that it is a compound that is released, we release it from our bodies into our brain when we're born, when we dream, and when we die. Now,
pretty powerful.
I don't know how true that is in terms of the studies that they've done, but that is what I've heard a lot of people say. And it's also considered the most powerful psychedelic or psychoactive substance known to man. So it's huge. It's huge. And essentially how it's made is there's many, many plants on the planet. There's actually thousands and thousands of plants in Australia and other parts of the world that contain DMT. It's actually quite common. However, we have an enzyme in our gut that actually breaks down DMT so it doesn't enter our brain. Okay, so we don't have a mystical experience when we're trying to eat our vegetables on a daily basis, basically. So then what has to happen is the DMT containing plant is made up in a brew, in a big soup with many other compounds and plants. The plants that are used can vary quite a lot, but the main attribute that they have is one contains DMT and another one contains another enzyme inhibitor, essentially, that gets mixed together and it stops our body from breaking down the DMT when we consume it. So then it can enter our brain. I don't know if it enters other parts of our body, but enter our brain. So then it becomes bioavailable for us to go on a mystical, spiritual journey.
Thank you so much for doing the explanation for that and not asking me, because I always butcher it. You always do a far better job. I'm like, plant mixed with plant means my body can feel full power of plant without getting in the way. So thank you for that.
No worries. And I'm not far above that. There's potentially some things that I've gotten incorrect with that explanation. That's a really basic explanation. So if anyone is interested, I would definitely suggest go have a Google and look it up for yourself and understand what this is. It might give you, if you haven't heard of it before, it might give you a little bit more context of what we're talking about throughout this conversation, because beyond that, I don't think we're going to get into that too much more.
No, that was perfect, because now when we say plant medicine or ayahuasca, people are going to understand that we're basically consuming or drinking like a herbal mix of native Australian plants this time.
We're drinking some plants and some other housekeeping that I would like to get out of the way, because we both want to be really, really careful about the way that we talk about this, because we went and took part of this experience with other people involved. So we're not going to talk about where we did it, necessarily when we did it, or who we did it with, or what other people's experiences were like, so to speak, because we just want to respect the privacy of everybody.
Yeah,
basically.
I think that's good. We just talk about our own.
Yeah. So we'll keep the experiences to ourselves. What that does mean is it may limit the possibility of some of the explanations that we can make about the experience that we have, but we'll try and I'm going to try and push you to the limit on this one, push you to the limit with how much information and how specific we can get about what this experience was like without treading on the toes of anyone else. Because in the end, it's probably one of the most vulnerable situations that you can be in, right?
Yeah, it's probably the most vulnerable position I have been in. And so I don't constantly keep saying, but this was my experience, or it might be different for other people. I'll just put it out there, and I'll say it once. I'm speaking for myself and my experience with ayahuasca, and that by no means makes me an expert. I don't think maybe you could even be an expert on this. But so I don't keep repeating myself. I'll just say from the get-go, this is my experience. And I think it's pretty safe to say it's very different for everyone and for the same person every time.
Yeah, and this is what I really want to dive into as you allow me to just blast you with.
Yeah, pick my brain. I'm ready.
With questions as much as possible, because if anyone's ever had any sort of experience like this before, when you're looking back on it, it can be a big jumble of different thoughts and different experiences, not necessarily lined up in the right timeline. But as much as possible, we're going to try and get a timeline of how this experience felt for you, and I might chip in a little bit with my experience as well, and order it up and just capture, because in the end, this is your first time, right?
Yep. This is my first time.
First time ever.
And I want to share it because I kind of feel like it's not talked about enough, or it's, not shared about enough. These are sort of resources that I would have liked. So I'm hoping someone might get something out of it, or if someone never wants to drink ayahuasca, maybe they can get something from like what I got out of it without having to go through that journey. So, I think talking about everything makes everything better. So let's not leave ayahuasca out. And if my journey can help someone else maybe with some of the thoughts and realizations I had, I think, that would be really cool.
Of course. Awesome. And so where I want to begin, Helen, is what was your perception of ayahuasca prior to doing it over the past 10 years or whatever, whenever from the first time that you heard about it, what was your perception of it? What did you hear about it? I'd love to know.
Yeah. So I feel like I first heard about it or kind of like really became aware of it and actually started meeting people who had drunk this plant medicine when I went to South America in 2016. Along my 2-month journey of travels, I came across a few people that had sat with it, drank with it. So that kind of opened my eyes to it, and I've always been curious since that time. I'll be honest though, I didn't actually think when I was in South America it was something that I wanted. I was curious about it, but I didn't think that was something I'd ever do or partake in. But slowly over the years that has changed. I can't really say why.
Why didn't you think it was something that you would partake in?
I think, kind of like when first exposure to something so weird and foreign, it's almost just seemed like, and I think maybe if I'd been exposed to it closer to home, then it would have felt like it was in my realm of possibilities. But, when you're meeting foreigners traveling and you're on the other side of the world, someone telling you something really crazy, unique and something that they've had done, it doesn't feel like it's almost part of your reality. Like it kind of felt like, oh, that's something other people do. Like, so I think maybe just like the setting that I was exposed to it through people's stories.
Yeah.
And then over the years, kind of those stories have stuck with me and I've just became more curious. I feel like the conversation opened up more in Australia about ayahuasca, or maybe just the groups and the people that I started following on social media. Maybe that kind of changed and segued. So it just seemed like a more talked about thing in Australia. So it just seemed more acceptable or appropriate to do closer to home. I don't know. I've forgotten the question.
That's all good. That's all good. So the second part of this question was what was your perception of ayahuasca?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I need a little board in front of you where you can write them down.
Like, what did you think it did? What do you think it did?
I mean, feel free to keep me on track because I'll waffle. From the pretty much the same as what I do now. Like, I don't feel like my perception's changed much. I got a deep understanding from the get-go of that it unlocks or untaps or gives you an eye into the subconscious in your body. So, and I think that is what I take from it today as well, that, traumas and thoughts and memories and feelings that we hold in our body. And as humans, we hold so much. We hold so much stress, fear, anxiety that we might not even be tapped into. So it's like bringing in all the subconscious spiritually, energetically in your body and kind of making you face that. So that was kind of how I saw it. It was a lot of talking about purging when I heard about it, which was a lot. So like the physical reaction of your body processing all this stuff, which might come from, diarrhea, vomiting, snot,
yum,
gastro-like symptoms, heavy saliva, hot, cold sweats, But think about, like, I guess when you've got a fever and your body's sick and it needs to push that out and shake that. So kind of it brings that on. So a lot of the physical symptoms I was aware of, and that's probably also one of the main reasons why it took so long to overcome that. As humans, we don't like to be sick or we don't like physical reactions, to the point where I think we spend half our lives, in a Western society numbing physical reactions.
Yeah.
Through many things, whether it be, drugs, alcohol, medications. We're just, I think sadly scared to feel.
Feeling's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Feeling can be hard. And I guess the longer that time goes by without feeling, the harder it gets.
Yeah, exactly. It builds up. It builds up. And there's so much that, especially as like, you know, we move so much quicker as a society and hustle culture. It's like, when's the time to sit and feel? It's kind of like, I love, you know, like the animal thing. When an animal goes through a scare or a trauma, their body will shake.
Yeah.
And that's their body releasing that adrenaline and fear from their bodies. Whereas like us humans, we don't do that. We just put our head down and we keep going. But like that has to be stored in us. Whereas like animals shake it out. And I think that's
well, I feel like
cool.
that's probably naturally in us. Hey, like I feel like if we weren't so conditioned, probably a lot more of those sort of physical body movements that help you just regulate yourself and get all the stress out from a stressful situation. I feel like we would do that probably a lot more quite naturally, except
for sure. And
you're so self-conscious about it.
Stresses and traumas, I think like they're coming at us so hot and thick these days because without you even realizing, you know, you might just open your phone and see TikTok of something that's really traumatic. And because there's so much coming in, you know, your body might start processing something out and then boom, like the next one's come in. So your body's, the way I see it, the body holds it and it's like, oh, well, fuck that. We haven't got time to clear that out because we're getting it from up top again. So then the next one comes in and then the body's trying to process and heal and move that, you know, energy out. But it has to close that up because fuck, we've got the next one.
100%. And this is where I find doing something like going on an ayahuasca journey or experience or going on a meditation retreat or doing anything that takes you away from your normal day-to-day for a couple days or a few days, just to give yourself enough time to get rid of as many of the external stimulus that we're copping on a day-to-day basis, which it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you know, in day-to-day life, because we've got so much technology that does help us, it's also 24/7 coming at us. So it's nice to be able to, even regardless whether you're consuming something like ayahuasca, even if you're not consuming anything at all, purely by just getting the space away and time to chill and time to think or time to examine yourself, I think is pretty powerful.
And like just, I guess, put it in like a real small summary. I guess my expectation of it and what I wanted out of it and what I thought it was, which I still having now partaken, I believe is the same, almost like a detox of the spirit. You know, I'm a big fan of detox. I think we need to do it a lot. So I see it as kind of a detox of the mind, the soul and the spirit, and actually as well of the body.
100%. That's really well said because that's what it feels like.
Yeah. Which luckily for me, what I wanted out of it and what I, you know, was going into it with is what I found it to be. So I'm really fortunate that I think, you know, from being introduced to the medicine and then having so long before drinking it, it kind of gave me a long time to work out, well, not work out, but to kind of get established of like, what is the point of this and what is the purpose and why would I put myself through it? And I feel really happy to say of what I took, you know, what I thought it was going to be going into it, I had that experience.
And so leading up to it, I guess once we arrived there and the day leading up to drinking the ayahuasca, were you carrying specific intentions for yourself or for your life, with something that you wanted to get out of it specifically?
Short answer, no. I didn't want to go into it with any like preconceived ideas that I was going to fix this or heal that, or because I did have the deep feeling of like this is my subconscious is going to, what's in my subconscious is going to come out here. So there's no point trying to assume what I'm going to get out of it. That's a short answer. But then long answer, I mean, you always kind of have like, you could say that in an ideal world, but I had niggling little thoughts in my head of like, oh, it'd be really cool if I could kind of like have an answer to this big question that I've been thinking about, or see, what my future was going to look like, or what path they should be on, or clarification on this. So I definitely tried not to, and I was pretty good at that. But you do have kind of niggling things that I guess the thoughts that I have all the time, I couldn't wipe that. So I was taking that into it.
Yeah, well, yeah, the reason why I asked, because we've gone and done other things, like we've done a breathwork ceremony, our breathwork workshop, and a big portion of that day was sitting down and writing it out, like writing out the things that you're dealing with at this point in time, the things that aren't so great, the things that you want to overcome, the things that you want to heal from, and what you want the future to look like, like trying to build a bit of a roadmap.
Normally I am that kind of person, and I definitely feel like there's a time and place for that. But I think because I had it so in my head of like, Ellen, you've got no control or say over this, then I kind of didn't spend too much time on that. I had the intention of going into it being super like rested and not stressed, and had eaten really clean the week before, no caffeine, like, 2 weeks, a month out. I kind of had this more of a game plan for the week before. And the funny thing was, like, drank my coffee every day, was stressed as hell, super busy, wasn't getting enough sleep, burning the candle at both ends leading up to it. And then I kind of like, got on the plane and had this funny thought. I was kicking myself and I was like, you're exhausted. You're so stressed. Like, you didn't do all that stuff. And I was kind of like laughing to myself of, well, I guess that's why you're doing this. Because if just in a week you could not be stressed and do your yoga every day and meditate every day, then like you probably wouldn't need to go drink ayahuasca. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, Ellen, like what did I expect,
We really did. I feel the exact same as you. The week leading up to it was not my ideal week.
No.
At all. I slept a few hours every night, was, so tired, behind on work and life things, behind on life admin, not really in the and didn't take enough time either to, normally for something like this, I really wanted to have enough time beforehand, or take the time beforehand to be able to sit down and fully clarify what it is that I wanted to get out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't feel like I had the time or made the time for that either. We just kind of rolled straight into it.
Well, maybe you could take solace like me. Then I was like, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing it. I have to do this to carve out that time, because otherwise, like, life happens and it doesn't get done, that clearing of everything, which is why I felt like I needed it.
So I think to kick us off on the actual journey and the actual experience, I would love for you to explain or paint a picture of the setup.
Like you know me, I'm always happy to set a scene.
Yeah, set the scene for the ceremony. What did it look like? What did it feel like? Tell me. Okay,
so cut me off if I go too long on this. I could give every detail under the sun, so I'll try and keep it light. We got a big, beautiful outdoor kind of open grassy area surrounded by tropical, beautiful trees. It's warm, it's balmy. And then you've got this big, beautiful fire pit in the middle of this kind of circular grass oval. And then you have myself and Dylan next to me, and then all the participants in a big circle with the fire in the middle. And we kind of set up this like little bed camp thing. So like we were in it for the whole night. Where we sat and drank was where we would eventually fall asleep, whatever time, our body allowed that. So a bit of a blow-up camping mattress, swag thing set up, blankets. Everyone kind of made this little like home sanctuary just on the grass outside. So pillows, different blankets, you've got your toilet paper there if you need to blow your nose or wipe your vomit away. You've got your own bucket, you've got your water. I had my eye mask, my earphones if I wanted it, like all the little luxuries tools, head torches, because once the sun went down, the fire was the only light.
And I want to highlight the bucket part.
Yeah. Everyone had to bring her own bucket. So that was daunting. But, that's daunting. But then when you're drinking something that might make you purge or feel really sick, you want your bucket. So it also was a comfort object. Sleeping bag. That was pretty much it. I had my phone tucked away, no camera, was trying to, stayed really off grid for it. And then a little bit behind me was a residence or a house. So we weren't shitting in the bucket. Let me make that clear. You could if you wanted to, but there was toilets behind.
Thank God.
Yeah, the bucket was purely just for vomit and stuff. Didn't shit in the bucket. But if you could, everything was kind of allowed. There's no...
I'm sure people have.
I'm sure people could have even on the night, and I didn't realise, you're in your own world. So, you've all got your little home away from home around the fire and you're under the stars. And to be honest, I couldn't think of a more perfect place.
It was.
Anything in nature fills me with a huge amount of like peace and calm before it.
It was beautiful. And behind us we had...
the music.
Yeah, literally.
I didn't even talk about the speakers.
Please.
Okay, so then we had speakers in different areas. So, when you closed your eyes and behind us we had some mics and lots of instruments and our facilitators, which are the people there to hold space and guide us through this, played different instruments and I could talk for 2 hours and not do the sounds and music justice, but basically when you're lying there, it's immersive into different sounds and noises and instruments. So there was a big component of sounds and noise and music and
full on.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you could add to that, please do, because
I think when we're in the midst, when we're up to that point of when the music's most relevant, I might chip in on it more. But the music side of things wasn't just a soundtrack on Spotify or anything like that. There was many people there who had the ability to play different instruments and they had microphone setups and everything. So there was people on drums, people singing, people on didgeridoos, heaps of different instruments that created organic and nature atmosphere that was enlightening and brilliant at some times and incredibly scary at other times.
Yeah. But all added to the set and setting, which is so important. And the set and setting for this was magnificent.
100%. Yeah, it was set up really, really well. And who knows? It was our first time, so I haven't been to any others. So I don't know how others are set up. It could be completely different. We were lucky enough to be outside, but I think other people would potentially do it inside, hey? So, yeah, I'm not sure. So that's what it looks like. The scene is set. Now, leading up to the day, were you nervous? Were you nervous about drinking?
Oh my God, I was so nervous. But only from one aspect of it, which was the physical purging side. So, this can make you trip, I guess, like visuals and sensations and see things that are not there and have huge amounts of emotions. Like there was a lot to be nervous about, but I was only nervous about the physical purging aspect of basically just like not having control of my body or enough time to be able to get to the toilet so I shit myself.
Yeah.
Or just vomiting. You know, no one wants to feel sick. And even though I believed if all that was happening, like before going into it, I believed, you know, if I did have diarrhea or I shat myself or I vomited, that's okay. That was what my body clearly needed to do. Like I trusted the process, and it's not like I went into it thinking, oh my God, if I shit myself, like, you know, I'm sick and it's not working. I trusted that the physical reaction that came out was clearly one that I needed to have, but it's still, who wants to shit themselves in front of a bunch of strangers?
I didn't. I really did not want to do that.
Yeah. So even though there's so many big scary things that can come up and, you know, huge waves of emotions that in my subconscious, so I could never even prepare for them, it really was the physical side that I was the most terrified about.
And I would love to just add on top of that with some of the information that we were given in the lead up to this experience from the people who were running it. Sent us this letter which outlines things to be not wary of, but things to think about, things to consider before going into it, which was this medicine, this plant medicine has the power to induce experiences that are so big and so intense that it can change your life, or it can change the trajectory of your life. This is what we were told, and this is what I've heard other people say as well. So that was the kind of emphasis that it was put on for us to think about actually coming into it. So there's quite a lot to be nervous about. I was nervous about all of that.
Yeah, and I wasn't even backstepping and thinking about, well, if my body's purging, that's because the emotions are so big and so strong. And I wasn't even worried about that. I was just like, don't shit your pants.
Yeah.
Should I everyone will be on the edge of their seat wondering, should I just tell them if I did? All right, I'll tell you guys. I didn't. Could have made them think about it and wonder for a little bit longer, but I just had to put it out there. I didn't.
You didn't.
I didn't.
Good job.
Yay.
Good job. Incredible.
Because maybe if I did, I'd be talking about this very differently. But I didn't.
We wouldn't be on the podcast.
Yeah. So that was my biggest fear. It was the purging. It was the physical.
Cool. So then this brings us to the evening. And something
the dreaded sunset time that we were just so anxiously just wanting to get to.
Yeah, we really were, weren't we? Like we're waiting around all day trying to get ready for this, and because of the nerves and pumping ourselves up, and the whole week leading up to it, I was definitely feeling I just want to do this. I just want to get into it and begin
and
this
reach
experience.
enlightenment already.
Give me the secret. Give me
exactly.
the answers.
I just want every problem to be fixed already. But I got to say, even though I had all this fear and anxiety around it leading up to it, like mainly in the week before, which again, I don't think is a bad thing. I think, being fearful or scared or nervous just shows you care. And a lot was going into this, and I really cared about it, and I'd waited a long time to do it. The few hours before, the calm and peace that came over me was crazy. I think because there was no getting out of it at that point. This decision had been made, all the mental load and the physical load had been done. Obviously I could have just not drunk it, but I don't know, that didn't feel like an option. So I did feel in the coming hours a big wave of calmness, because all the decisions and everything had just been done. There was nothing more to think about. I was there, I was present, I was 100% going to drink the medicine. there was no choices. And I think that just brought me a really big I think that just made me really calm right before it, because it's just I'd made up my mind. You know, deciding something is like the hardest like the hardest process normally. Like once you make a decision, it's like, okay, even if it's a scary one, you've made the decision, and that can feel really fucking good.
100%. You're on the train now. There's no getting off.
Yeah. So I had this big calming feeling before. I was just like, come on, let's do this. Let's go.
And so this leads us into the evening, and I can't remember what time it got dark, but maybe like 6:30 or getting dark, close to 7 o'clock. And for me personally, with other plant medicines that I've done and other psychedelic experiences that I've had, I personally love doing it in the daytime because I love admiring how beautiful the world is. And I don't know, it seems to lend itself to maybe an easy or a positive and a beautiful experience. So coming in and beginning something at night added an extra layer of intensity for me.
Especially when you know it's something that, you know, you're signing up for a 10, 12-hour experience when it's like an hour and a half before our bedtime.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of getting to that stage where you're like, I'm tired, my body's ready to rest, not, you know, go into a marathon.
So we're set up and we're lying there, and we begin the process of everybody getting their different doses of how much they're going to drink. There was more, you know, experienced people there who were drinking more than what we were prepared to do the first time round. But I want to hear what it was like to actually drink this stuff. How did it taste?
It actually tasted better than I thought. Like I was expecting, so thankfully we only had to drink a little amount. It was this kind of like brown liquid. I was expecting the absolute horrendous worst thing in the world. I went into it just expecting like this was going to taste like shit. So I was actually pleasantly surprised, because in my head I'd already demonized it as the worst thing you could ever put in your mouth in the world.
Yeah.
Just from stories people had said. Like everyone says, oh, it tastes disgusting. As someone that's taken a lot of Chinese herbs, like herbal medicine, I actually just think it tastes a lot like Chinese herbs that I have drunk many times over the years.
You've drunk some funky stuff.
Yeah, I drink some funky powders. I drink some funky stuff. I'm pretty good with that. So it wasn't too bad, but I shot at it pretty quick. There was no like sipping on it for me, which was a bit risky, because if you drink it really quick, you're more likely to throw it up straight away. And then you've got this dicey game of, how long do I reckon that was in my stomach for? Do I need to drink it again? So it was risky, but I just kind of like 2 big gulps and it was done. Probably about like 3 shots worth.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe 2 shots.
Yeah, like we're not picturing, like there's no big glass here.
60 mils, 50 mils, I don't know, something like that.
And then I ate a mandarin. So
you ate a mandarin?
I'm telling that because things that can be harsh on the stomach, so it's like magic mushrooms. Citrus really helps just with that digestion process. So I had a mandarin after, which also like good to have a chaser, get the flavour out of your mouth. Does it
add, with the citrus, does it add like another layer of digestion before it actually?
I think it helps it digest.
It helps it digest?
Yeah.
Like the acid breaks it down more?
Yeah. Yeah, it helps break it down more. So I think you also digest it, like it absorbs quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue into how long did it take from when you drank it, how long did it take for you to start feeling something?
I drank it and then, we knew the facilitators, our shamans, you could almost say, were going to come around. It was an hour and a half later.
90 minutes, yeah.
90 minutes. So I had no idea of the time, but I knew I would know when an hour and a half had been. So I laid back. I was just listening to the music, felt this calm sensation. I was just like so ready, and a beautiful sensation of this is exactly where I'm meant to be and what I'm meant to be doing. You know, I was so at peace with what was going to come, which was really nice. And I lay back and I'm listening to the music, and I'm enjoying the music and I'm feeling calm and I'm cozy. But it just felt completely sober. And then I get offered to drink more. And I thought, I was just taking age. So it's been an hour and a half and I still don't feel anything. And I'm like starting to have these thoughts of like, am I like immune? like have I got some like crazy tolerance that like people don't have? You know, like there's some people that like don't feel anything, like or like they're just like a freak of nature.
It doesn't touch them.
Yeah. And I was like, and so it's funny because I'm also like a super sensitive person to a lot of things. And I was just like, maybe I'm just one of these people that like it's not going to change anything. So then I drank more. I mean, I was there to play full out. So an hour and a half. I was also, guided that after an hour and a half, if you don't feel anything, apparently I was told that can be common for the first time. So I don't know if it's maybe I don't know, but I was told that it could be common. It is common the first time to not feel it as quickly or as strong. So then I drank more. Laid back down. Again, don't know how long it took for it to kick in, but it kicked in.
I just want to cut in before you continue, just to tell you my point of view from this exact moment.
Yeah, I was going to say cut in if you've got any gems from a side view. You were laying next to me.
I'll definitely cut in because this moment for me was hilarious because I was feeling similar, but I definitely felt something. I felt like a small buzz of energy, a small buzz of feeling. Maybe like, if you had, half a beer or something like that. Maybe even less. Just a little. I'm not fully in my sober state, but I wasn't feeling much, and so I was in the same spot of like, I'll definitely have more at the 90-minute mark, and the facilitator came up to me and was like, how you doing? I explained how I was feeling. He's like, do you want more? I'm like, yep, let's do it. And in the time that I was like, let's do it, and he was going to get my cup, I look over at you and you've already ordered and you've just drunk it. And in that space of like 2 minutes, it started coming on massively for me. And I was like, oh shit.
Like this second cup's not looking too good. Oh, that's right. Then you looked at me and you were like, have you already drunk it all? And I was like, yeah. And you're just thinking, oh shit, she's got to go.
I didn't want to freak you out, right? Because once again, we don't know we don't know how powerful this is going to be and what, you want to keep it as light and positive as possible going into something like this to have a good mentality. And by the time he brings my cup back and there's energy surging through me, it's a big come up. I don't see anything visually, but I can feel the intensity in my body. And I look over at you and you've drunk it.
and I was probably like 10 minutes behind you of feeling that, but I'd already knocked a second one back.
And I was just like, oh no. Like, I don't want to say like to you, oh shit, like this is going to fuck you up. But that's what I was thinking. And then I was thinking, well, shit, this is going to fuck me up. And if you hadn't drunk it, I probably would have said, let's wait a bit. Let's wait. But because you'd already drunk it, I had this cup in my hand and I was like, shit, if this feels this strong from one and I drink another one, this is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, you were. I do remember now you being like, have you drunk it all? And I was like, yeah. Like I just wanted to get it down quick. And then you kind of were like, oh, okay, shit. Yeah. But then you drank it.
So I drank it. I was here, ride or die. I was here to send it with you.
We did really want to like match each other. It wasn't detriment, but we did say like it'd be cool to be drinking the same amount. So we kind of and this was the same frequency. But I'll tell you what, I don't think when I was feeling it, if someone had offered me another cup, I would have been able to drink it. So fucking props to you that you started feeling it and then you still necked back another cup. Because when I was in it, there's no way I would have had more.
I was nervous. And it does bring up, maybe we can talk about this now whilst I'm thinking about it before you continue, which is the how, because we hadn't done this before, and many people go and do this by themselves, so some ground rules were set at the beginning of the ceremony. They weren't. There was a couple hard rules, and it was don't talk to other people and don't touch other people. Like stay out of
unless you're in a relationship. Like we were allowed to. You could say to me, "Did you just drink that cup?" Like we were allowed to if we wanted to talk, but
so we could whisper to each other quietly. And it was a bit of a decision going into this because I didn't know the setup of like, are we meant to be sitting on the opposite sides of the circle for this?
Yeah, it was a big decision whether to be next to each other.
And I really didn't, it just kind of fell into us being next to each other. And I'm really, really thankful that you were there and I got to do that with you and be able to whisper to you in quiet moments and have that. I think going in and doing it fully by yourself and not talking to anyone would lend itself to potentially quite a different experience.
Yeah. And like there's positives to that and negatives. Like we also had to go into it being completely selfish. That was what we talked about and agreed in a sense of like, we can't be constantly like asking the other person if they're okay. Like we both understood that we had to go through our own journeys. And if we were suffering and it was painful physically or emotionally, like the other person's going through their shit as well. So like, that's unfamiliar to us, having to just be completely selfish. And I just had to really trust that whatever you were experiencing, good, bad or ugly, it's what you had to experience and what you had to go through. So, times I looked over and you looked like you're in so much pain and I just had to, kill that part of me that just wanted to like shut off everything I was feeling and come give you a hug.
Yeah, it's a really big thing to deal with in that moment because you are turning off those parts of yourself that want to help, want to ask if you're all right.
Yeah.
Want to check how you're doing and see what you're going through, but at the same time we're both in such altered states that potentially sometimes could be detrimental, So just being able to relinquish control in that sense and just be like, well, there are facilitators here. There are people that can help. Obviously, we had an understanding that like if you really needed something, like please let me know.
Yeah.
Like reach out. But unless you let me know, it's like we're lying down next to each other, but we're riding this solo in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And we both agreed to that and knew what we were signing up for.
So what
going
was
into it? So So do you want me to keep going from the second cup?
Yeah, you can.
We got off topic, so I'll keep going in. I drank my second cup. You drank your second cup begrudgingly. You drank your second cup with a fuckload of fear that I did not have. And then I don't know how long after, but next minute, boom, like we were on. And all those thoughts about like, am I just someone that just can't feel ayahuasca was just completely stopped. And I had my eyes closed and normally I see black when my eyes are closed. Like I'm a visual person. So like I actually, like when I close my eyes, I see black, but some people don't see actually anything. Anyway, next minute.
Some people don't.
Like, do you see black?
What do people see other than black?
Well, I think some people don't see anything. Kind of
like there's no mind's eye.
Yeah.
I think everyone at home's closing their eyes right now.
I hope so.
Can
you like message in what you see?
I can see black.
Okay. Well, so I'm staring at the back of my eyes.
Okay.
And the next minute, like, boom, visual central. Like, and this is really hard to describe because, we're talking about something that 99.9, I don't know, the percentage of people like will never experience, but visuals, and I can't even tell you what they were. It's just like shapes and colors, but physical stuff. Like it felt like my eyes were open and I was watching this weird show of things. And I kind of can't explain it more than that, but I knew I was on. So I quickly opened my eyes and next minute, and the fire was actually creating a lot of light. Like I was surprised about how much I could see all the trees and, the moon, your eyes adjust, like the moon was quite bright and your eyes really do adjust. And next minute, I open my eyes and where all the trees are, they don't look like trees. They look like really scary monsters. But I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, Ellen, You know those are trees. So I just kept reminding myself of like the people didn't look like people. It was really, really, really scary. And I just kept reminding myself like, you know they're people, you know these are trees. They were kind of like giving me like Dementor vibes, the trees.
Okay, yeah.
But so it was okay when my eyes were shut, but when my eyes were open, it was really, really scary. And so I shut my eyes again and I was just seeing all these visuals, but they weren't scary. And I lay back down and I had this thought. I was watching this for maybe a few minutes, and I had this thought of, oh, well, if I can just keep my eyes shut and just keep these visuals, then this isn't that bad. This is actually quite fun. The moment I had that thought, boom, the visual stopped, like completely black again. Like just as quick as they came on, the moment I had that thought of like, oh, this is actually quite enjoyable. I could do this all night, gone. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I was like, oh, that's kind of scary. Like this is clearly not meant to be easy. You know, like it was like almost I had this thought of, oh, this is easy. And your body was like, oh, well, then we'll move on to something else.
Ah, okay, yeah.
You know, like it was like it's like I, with that thought, told someone that this wasn't hard enough for me. So I was like, oh, okay, that's really scary. Like it doesn't want this to be easy. That was the message I was getting.
So the plants decided to
mix it up.
Up the ante.
Yeah, because it's almost like I was too in control. And yeah, I was too in control. And again, in this time, my body is just calm. Like nothing hurts.
Were you having surges of energy or anything?
No, my body was like monk temple. Like it was just like when I'm in Shavasana and yoga. Like it was just calm. Everything was so fine.
Whoa.
Yeah, and my mind is like going crazy, but body, you know, just so calm, like just toasty. Like it was funny. If you looked from the outside, you would have thought, God, she's having a chill one, because I'm just tucked up under the blanket, like just laying back with my eyes shut or sitting up, but body not moving, and everyone around us is, you know, I mean, I won't talk about it, but like there's a lot of purging going on, and my body, fine, perfect. So then I opened my eyes because the visuals had stopped and everything's really scary. The trees are scary.
When you say your body's good, but your mind was going through it, like what was happening to your thoughts other than that thought about, oh, this is easy? Like what were your thoughts doing? Like what was happening in that moment?
Well, then I had my eyes open because it was boring with my eyes shut because I wasn't seeing anything again. So then I opened my eyes and everything just wasn't what it seemed. So my thoughts were just running of, this is really scary, but you know they're trees, you know you're safe, you know they're people, you still have concept of what you're doing and where you are. Like it's not like I'd lost concept of myself or that I'd drunk ayahuasca. Like everything when I opened my eyes was not what it seemed and just scary and dark, but I just kept telling myself like, you know rationally that what's going on. Like I hadn't lost complete sense of reality.
You were still on the inside.
Yeah. So it was just a conversation of like, don't freak out. You're fine. You're safe. Just, I guess, like controlling the fear.
Yeah.
And then after a while, and then there was like, I can't even tell you what like the medicine was saying to me, but it was like I was in a dialogue with someone else. It wasn't my thoughts. Like I had my thoughts of like, you're fine, you're safe. But there was this dialogue from like a higher being talking to me, and I can't remember what they were saying, but they were saying mean, scary things. And I cannot even tell you what it was, but like it wasn't like me saying mean things to myself. It was like a higher dialogue saying mean things that was just making me feel scared. I can't even it's not even like I knew. It could have even been gibberish. Like it might not have even been anything, but it felt like there was a dialogue and from a power or entity that was like mean and scary.
And it wasn't specifically like saying specific things to you, but the Was it saying actual words?
I don't
know. Were you
know.
hearing mean things?
I don't know.
Or it just was mean?
Yeah, it's just like it was mean. So this is all happening like really quick. And then I kind of like had this fucking hilarious realization of like, wow, Ellen, your biggest fear going into this was the purging and the body reaction and feeling sick and vomiting and shitting everywhere. And that was your biggest fear. And I basically got what I asked for. My body was a fucking temple and my mind was the fight. There's just like this fight going on in my head of just like trying to not let the fear win. And it was almost comical. Like I actually remember having this thought of like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because like at that time when I'm just on this battle with this fear, it's just like so much fear in me. And at that time, all I wanted was to just like that to go away and to be violently vomiting.
Yeah, right.
I actually was like hearing people vomit around me and I was like, oh my God, can I just be a purger right now? Like, and it was just this message of be careful what you wish for, because I went into it with so much fear around the physical. And I didn't have any of that. It was all the mental, which I kind of went in thinking I got this.
You're like, I'm mentally sweet. It's all good.
Yeah. So it was this big message of be careful what you wish for, like to a comical level. Like I actually think I physically smiled in that moment. And then we progressed. So I think the biggest thing I learned, something about Aya that really shocked me that I didn't expect was how quickly you move through different thoughts or states or being. So like, you know, like 1 minute the visuals and then gone, or 1 minute you can feel super sick and then fine. Like everything moves really quick. Well, it was for me.
100%. And I couldn't believe how dynamic the experience is compared to other psychedelic experiences that I've had in terms of the ability to assume or predict how it's going to feel or how it's going to happen. If anyone's eaten mushrooms before or taken LSD before, people still have very different experiences, but the way that the compound actually acts on you is quite predictive in a sense. Like it takes a certain amount of time to come on. You kind of build, peak, down. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's quite predictable over that period of time. But I really, and this was a blessing and a curse. And they did tell us this actually in the lead up to drinking, which I thought was really, really helpful because I was thinking about it whilst I was in it as well, is the possibility of experience with the undulating ups and downs is rapid. It could be like 5 minutes to 20 minutes. You could be in like the worst, a bad trip for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes and then it'll pass and then you're in a completely another room or another zone, basically going through something else, where traditionally on other substances, kind of once you settle in for a bad time, it can sometimes be really difficult until it wears off.
Yeah.
The actual compound wears off. But yeah, it's crazy how
it just jumped around like so much.
It progresses. It's like it keeps moving forward. You're on a moving train. It keeps moving forward, and you're holding on for dear fucking life. And sometimes the train's going slow and it's playing nice music.
Yeah.
And it's you're looking at the trees, and then sometimes the train is like going off the tracks and it's scary as. And another thing that I will say, which is not something that I expected as much, is the possibility of experience. So like the possibility of the visual side of things, which I'm sure you'll get into more. But yeah, the types of visualizations that can happen between geometric, fractal, classic patterns that people would have seen if you ever Google DMT or LSD sort of patterns. That being on one side, but then being able to fully hallucinate or fully visualize, like you're sitting in a room somewhere with different types of people and there's no fractals at all. Like you're literally, it's like in a dream.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that both of those things can be happening.
Like think of every single way you could see things and hallucinate. All are an option on Aya.
Yeah. Basically, any way that you could possibly imagine is kind of the possibility of how it could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of hard to explain the journey because it all is moving so quick. So I'm trying to keep it, semi on track. But yeah, it's a lot happening. So was experiencing the fear big, laughing about myself that be careful what you wish for. And then I started really, and again, I don't know how long it's been. I don't know if this has been 2 hours, 20 minutes. This is just how it went. Time is so fucking irrelevant in that moment, I'm not wondering about the time. And then I started having thoughts about why was I so scared? Why was I so fearful of my body purging and my body getting sick? Why was I so focused on the body reaction when there's so much to the mind and this is so scary? Why was I only focused on the body? And then what began was this huge process that I think did span for hours and hours and hours of me really making some big fucking body-mind connections. And ultimately so the fear then dropped and I went into this other space, whereas there was no fear anymore. Even when I opened my eyes, the visuals had completely calmed down. I could tell that was a tree or that who that person was. And then I kind of began this unraveling of this deep reflection of my mind-body experience and connection. And I realized I was so scared about how my body was going to react because I live in a way that feels like my body fails me all the time or lets me down. And that's why I went into it. And I didn't even know that going into it, that's what was running the show. But what became so disgustingly obvious was you constantly expect your body to let you down. And not that purging is your body letting you down, but that was obviously how I saw it. And I was if it's one thing that's going to fail, it's not my mind, it's my body. And then I was why do I feel like my body always lets me down? And then I went on this big journey of thinking about heaps my endometriosis, which I have. Endometriosis is when tissue similar to what lines the inside of the uterus actually starts lining on the outside of the uterus.
Oh, really?
Causing lots of scar tissue, which then causes a lot of inflammation and then causes a lot of side effects. And it's a disease which I didn't even know. I knew about it, but I'd never called it a disease. And basically in this moment where I'm having this realization about my body failing me, all I've got in my head is all I can picture is my uterus. And I notice that my hands are on my stomach and they have been for quite a while. And I was why do I feel like my body fails me? And I realized having a disease that you have so many symptoms all the time, but especially when you're in the bleeding phase of your cycle is so, I don't have to explain this to you. You witness this every month with me. Is so, so, so painful. For a week, every month I'm in so much pain and I'm, bed bound for days of it, taking more painkillers than I think even a rhino could handle. Hot water bottles, heavy bleeding, cramps, back pain, and I didn't go into this experience at all thinking about my endo or my periods. And it just kind of all flooded to me of you think your body's going to fail you because every single month you experience your body failing you. When you're bleeding and it's meant to, make you feel fertile and that your body's working and, it's so painful and I just want it to end and it feels like my uterus hates me. It feels like my body is almost rejecting me. And even though this is something I've suffered with for so many years, I've never called it or even made the connection to like chronic pain. And this is just like all coming to me and I just can't stop holding my stomach and chronic pain comes into my head. And I know a lot of people that have had chronic pain and I see how hard it is for them. But I've never associated myself with one of those people. And then it just hit me. I was like, Ellen, you have chronic pain and you struggle to dream big and plan and start projects because every 3 to 4 weeks you were going to get kicked on your ass for a week, like a quarter of my year. And like this isn't like new things. Like I know this happens, but I've never allowed myself the to, I guess, grieve it. So when I'm feeling all this and I'm thinking about all this, all that I've got over me is just like sadness. It's like felt like I was at a funeral. There was just so much sadness there, almost mourning the life that I have or the life that I want or those weeks that I've lost. Like if I counted the days, if I counted how many days I'd lost to endo, like it would be years.
Yeah.
And so it was just this huge, huge wave of mourning and pain that I've never allowed myself to feel, that I didn't even realize I needed to feel, and allowing myself to like call it chronic pain and realize how much sadness that brought me and how much that was affecting my life. I mean, like, look, like I'm tearing up now about it. But before the ayahuasca, I don't think I've ever cried about it. Like I've complained a bit, but even then, anyone that chronic pains will probably get this. You get sick of your own fucking voice complaining. Like, because it happens all the time. You feel like you're burdening your loved ones. You're sick of every month having to cancel plans or cancel to your friends and explain it. You're sick of talking about it because it's just so reoccurring. And I guess I'd shut that part off of me because I was even sick of it. Like I was sick about complaining about the pain, or I was tired of seeking the treatments and the appointments. And it's almost like for so long I just tried to ignore it and just like head down, just get through it, every month. And my body hit me with like you've got to grieve this and you've got to sit with this. And all I felt was just like so depressed. But no, depressed is not a right word. It was like being mourning at a funeral.
Yeah.
And just these waves of sadness. And I, was making all these connections of why I thought my body was going to let me down, and then how I live, just like had accepted that this is the way it was and the way it should be, and having a realization that like I can't keep doing this. I hopefully a healthy woman, if I'm a healthy person, I should have my period for like another 10 years. And just this realization of like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep just pretending that like this is not taking so much from my body, my mind, my soul, my relationships, my goals. It hit me that when I trained for a half marathon last year, like I didn't tell anyone about it for so long, and I was training all year, but knowing that if my cycle, and because it's not regular, I don't know when I'm going to bleed, knowing the whole year of training that like if I got my period and was bleeding when the marathon date was, like I wouldn't be able to do it. There was just no way in hell that I'd be able to get up and run. So yeah, it was all that connection was happening, and it was big. It was big. And I don't think I've cried about it for years. And since doing the Aya, I've cried so many times about it. And it wasn't even like I was sitting there and like, this is shit. You need to sort this out. You need to go do this doctor's appointment. Because they're the thoughts I have had. the action thoughts, the
Yeah.
thoughts of,
I got to fix it.
okay, yeah, I've got to do it. This time I'm going to do all the appointments, and even when it gets expensive and time consuming, I'm going to keep doing them and follow through, and I'm going to keep going to my naturopath, and it wasn't that. They're all the thoughts that I have had and were familiar with. This was no action thoughts. This was just like letting my body sit with, this sucks. It hurts. It was the morning, like as in morning, not the sun was coming up.
Yeah.
And I realized I hadn't allowed myself to feel these things or do that ever.
Like you've just been pushing those kind of feelings away.
Yeah. Pushing them away, just not tapping in, always in the action of how do I deal with this? How do I fix it? Okay, don't plan stuff for that week because you might get it that week, or plan stuff only with friends that are things that you can move or not. You know, it's always just action. And in this moment, there was no action. It was just deep sadness of what this is doing to my life and how much this is taking from me. Mm. And that was so cathartic. Like,
it felt obviously not good, but it felt good.
Exactly. Yeah. It felt not good, but good, because it was the first time that I'd allow my body to just be like, this is really hard and it's hurting and this is chronic pain, and this is okay that this is so much of a struggle for you.
It's like a massive acknowledgement, hey?
Yeah, acknowledgement that I didn't even realize that I needed to give to my body. And then realizing how much my body and my mind were at war, you know, and I think this, and I want to talk about this because I think this can be applied to so many different aspects for different people. Like when your mind and body are at war, like that's not good. And even if it's, and I'm not just at war when I'm in pain, I'm at war every other day because I'm bracing for that week that I'm bedbound. And it just hit me, and I was like, I will never heal and I will never be okay when I keep rejecting my body and think that my body hates me and my body's rejecting me. Like, I got to fucking sync this up. Like, it's not my body and me, which is what I took into the ayahuasca, thinking like me versus body. Like, body, you will not shit yourself. Like, I went into it with a me, mind versus body.
Yeah.
And I had this huge realization of, it is not you. There should be no internal war here. Like, I need to work with my body. We are one. It is not this thing that I need to like attack with my mind because I think my body's attacking me, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's a really big realization, hey.
Yeah, it was really, really big. And I realized I was holding my stomach and my uterus and my ovaries and constantly just having my hand on those organs, just because I was almost saying sorry. Like, I was trying to send all my love there because I was like, I'm sorry that I've seen this as a war, because like this shouldn't be, and it doesn't have to be. And I think with all pain that is reoccurring, because I've had it in other areas with other things, and it's like, it does feel like you're at war with your body. And I hope that anyone listening to this that has those can find, you know, with or without ayahuasca, find time to like sit and just mourn when things hurt and things suck and things take things away from you. It doesn't need to be all action. You are allowed to just sit and like feel how much that hurts before, and then the action can come. But I think anyone that is experiencing pain, and I'm not saying everyone blocks it out like I do, so not everyone needs this message, but, you know, if you've got chronic pain, you can just sit and mourn how much that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And how much that does take from you. Because if you're like me, you wouldn't have acknowledged that. I thought I might cry. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
That's raw. It's honest.
It's full on stuff, and you make a really good. I I was obviously with you when you were connecting a lot of these dots together, and it was really blowing my mind. Even though I don't actually know what you feel like I can't possibly know what that feels like. It was still like ringing a big bell for me listening to you saying that, like when you and listening to you say it now, talking about just that in a lot of ways it really can be you against your body. Hey, like a massive war, and it's hard when it comes to things like discipline. It's like sometimes there's time to treat your body rigorously, so it gets in line, and in the end you've got control over it. But to like hate your body,
and I didn't even know I was doing it.
To hate it is a whole nother thing, as opposed to like pushing it hard. It's like chalk and cheese, and it was so obvious in that moment or in that time with all these thoughts, but I'd never thought that. And it was crazy, the circle and the connections back to how I was feeling going into it. Yeah.
So the fact that it did that loop was insane. But afterwards the next day, like, it's just so cathartic. And I also realized, like, this whole realization or like sadness about how much this was stopping me from kind of connecting with my divine feminine, as corny as that sounds. Like, I've just really felt like there was a block there. And, when your uterus and your ovaries feel like they're at war with you, it really, I don't know, the word divine feminine just kept coming up for me. And it was like, almost felt like it was, all this pain was like stopping me loving being a woman. Because like, and I've done so much work in trying to like harness the power of your periods and love all your hormones, and, because it's just such a hard roller coaster as a woman, and especially someone with endo, and I've done all this work. But it's like, ultimately what I realized at the end of the day is like, sometimes I like really hate being a woman, because I associate, well, if I was a man, I wouldn't have to deal with this. And so that was like really sad as well, because I don't want that.
Yeah.
So coming to terms with that and almost seeing that kind of let me just let go of it, like saw it, mourned it, let go of it. But I'd never had that thought before, ever. Like, I'd never had that thought of, or a conscious thought of, this pain makes me hate being a woman and makes me feel like I can't connect to my femininity and my divine feminine. And because it's like, it just was so obvious to me of like, every time you're dealing with this pain, you just fucking wish you were a man.
Yeah.
And because that would be easier. And like, I don't want to feel like that. So
of course
I had to let that go, because I was like, I can't carry this out of here, because look what it's doing to me. Like,
it's like tearing you apart.
Yeah.
An internal war like that.
Yeah.
Carrying that around on a daily basis.
And I didn't even realize I was, to a degree.
Yeah.
To the level of what, I experienced and witnessed on this medicine.
Powerful.
And then also not having the purging and the physical reaction, it was like this hug from my body, because it was like this, how this kind of all ended was this, what note I ended on was this feeling of, my body has shown me I'm okay. My body is stronger than I actually think it is. Like, it's like my body knew that I couldn't handle a purge, or I couldn't handle going through the physical stuff, because it was like, yep, see, fucking knew it, my body hates me. And by having this calm, serene body throughout this all, the message that was left with me at the very end was like, holy shit, my body is stronger than I believe it to be. My body is stronger than I think it is. My body's got me. Because like, fuck, through this whole journey, it's, at this stage been like 6-7 hours, and like, my body has not faltered in any way the slightest, not even a fucking cough, not even a little sniffle.
Yeah.
Like, not even a sneeze. Like, my body was
You were golden.
strong. My body was so strong. So what I ended on with was my body saying like, look, we fucking got you.
Yeah.
And it did. I think like an hour after I went and ate some dal.
You were cruising.
Oh, this is it. So this is kind of like I see kind of the ending of this journey for me was I had all this and I'm sitting by the fire. I've gone from like kind of sitting by the fire, lay back down and then and they did I laid down and I was like, okay, body, you've got me. Like I hear you. Like you're strong. I need to remember that. Like we are one. And then I laid down and I put my hands back on my stomach and I'm like, okay, body, I'm listening. Like, what else do you have to tell me? And then my stomach rumbled. No shit. I literally was like, body, I'm listening. What do you want? And then my stomach rumbled. And so I was like, oh, I can do that. Okay. So then I got up and at some point during the night, we knew there was going to be like food laid out kind of further away out of the kitchen. So when you kind of are coming out of it or want to kind of end or you're ready to eat because we'd fasted most of the day besides my mandarin, I knew there was going to be food there. So yeah, I was like, okay, body, you're ready to eat and be nurtured now. So let's do this like as one. So I went up and I got some dal and I came back and I didn't want to disturb you eating my dal. I was like, the smell might, I don't know, take you out of a trance. So I remember sitting like quite far away and I was just watching you while I ate my dal and I was in a really good place and I felt like my journey had come to the end. Little did I know that it would continue almost for like 3 days after. And I was just like looking at you, sending you so much love because I really felt like I'd done a full circle. And so I was just watching you not moving and just hoping that you were okay. And then I ate my dal.
Oh, yeah, I was going through it.
Yeah. And you looked like you were and I knew I had to stay away and I had to just let you go through it. So I was just sending you so much virtual love, but it was hard.
That's a really massive, it's a massive realization that you went through, being able to connect the dots like that. It surprised me so much because it became really evident to me with working with ayahuasca, this interesting sort of power that it seems to have where it can bypass your mind.
Yeah.
Almost, where I've not experienced that before other than like, I don't know, traumatic experiences that bypassed your mind and settle themselves in your body. This seems to have the ability to just go straight on to doing the somatic work, straight away. And yeah, like you said, it like started at your body first almost and used your body. I don't want to paraphrase you too much, but this was my interpretation of when I listened to you, because it happened to me in some different ways where it felt like the spirit, the plant spirit or the plant medicine, whatever you want to call it, it literally starts from the ground up, like starts working on your body first until your mind starts to realize what's going on.
Yeah.
Or using your body as a mechanism to teach your mind something where I've always, other psychedelic journeys that I've been on, it's been the opposite. It's given me the power to use my mind in a certain way to ultimately then tell my body how to move or something like that, to be able to teach maybe my body something logically from my mind. This was the opposite. It comes up from back and behind and underneath, from the subconscious and the body. And it's like I felt like my logical mind or my conscious mind was the last one to realize what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
it's almost like it's crazy, but it almost felt like the medicine started working the moment I decided to take it, not the moment I'd made the choice to drink, not actually drink, because there was so much connection coming to like how I was feeling before. it really felt like my learning and healing journey started the moment I decided to drink instead of actually drinking, which was a pretty crazy feeling.
Which leads me into thinking about, you know, the real esoteric side of things, because, you know, you can think how you want about it. I'm sure a lot of people have got different feelings on how spiritual they want to get with things like this. And, for lack of a better term, from the facilitators that we had and from other, you know, podcasts and books and interviews and things that I've listened to, it seems to be a pretty unanimous or collective idea that these plants are conscious. These plants are conscious, and it's
almost like they have a spirit.
They are spirits.
Yeah.
They're gods in a sense.
Yeah.
Like maybe not gods. I don't actually know exactly how they see them, but I've heard it said that ayahuasca is the teaching spirit. It's the teacher, or it's the teaching plant, and
fuck, I felt that.
Yeah, and yeah, whether you believe in these things or not, it really does have that feeling. If it was a spirit, if it is a consciousness of some sort, an angel or however you want to look at it, then it already exists out there right now. And, you know, that's why it potentially could, even the thought of it could begin acting on you before you consume it. And this is why it was such a crazy experience for us with how long this experience felt like it lasted for maybe a week.
Yeah, because I do
afterwards.
Believe it's because the spirit's always there. We were just doing something to strongly almost tap in. But I really felt like it was there hours before I drank, and it was there for days after I drank. And it was crazy because when I had all this scary dialogue, or when I had all this dialogue in my head, it was the first time in my life that I've experienced dialogue in my head that didn't sound like it was me having a conversation with myself. Like, it wasn't like, you know, my voice being like, Ellen, this is causing you a lot of pain. And then me being like, duh. Like, normally I have a dialogue all the time in my head, but it's a dialogue with myself.
Yeah.
This is the first time in my life I've experienced a dialogue where it actually felt like someone or something else talking to me. And it's the first time I've ever experienced that. And I didn't manifest that because I didn't know, I'd never heard that being a thing when drinking Aya. What's the term I should use? It's mother talking to me.
Oh yeah, they called ayahuasca the mother.
The mother.
This entity, this spirit, the mother.
And no surprising with everything I've said, the mother had a lot of feminine energy with her. And so I didn't go into it expecting this to happen and to have an external voice or messaging in. It's with everything I've ever taken under the sun. When I meditate, everything, breath work, it's always my own dialogue with myself. And so I didn't go into it knowing that this is something that people experience a lot, the external dialogue. I didn't actually know that. So when that happened and I was telling one of the facilitators afterwards, and I kind of couldn't explain it, and then she was like, oh, yeah, that's the mother talking to you. Like, that's normal. That's, you know, that's awesome. That happens commonly on ayahuasca. So it's not even like I went in it with like trying to make it happen. So like that really shows, I think, the power of it.
Yeah, and another thing that they did mention in the lead up, in the preparation to drinking, was there's going to be times where you feel like you don't want to be here. You're going to have times that you feel like you want to get up and you just want to fucking leave. You want to walk away. There's going to be times where you're struggling like mentally massively, or you have no idea why you're there. It's like, I don't know what this feeling is. I'm so confused right now. Like, why are you putting me through this? And that's what I was having. I was having like, why do I feel like this right now? Like, this feels like an unnecessary amount of suffering that I'm going through right now.
Well, I even had the thought at one point, why am I on a loop about my endo? Like, I'm here to fucking sort out big shit. And then I was slapped down real quick by this other fucking entity because it was like, what is not more real and big than this?
Yeah.
Than something that you feel and think about every single day that controls your life. You think every time you plan something, every time you go somewhere, like you're in so much pain. It is like, it was kind of like this, what the fuck is more important? But because I'd like in my mind, I'd ranked it so low. Like I'd ranked my chronic pain so low under what's important or what, deserves my attention, that I was like, I need to work out, where do I want to live next year? And then I kind of was like, holy shit, no, okay, yeah. What the fuck is more important than this?
Yeah, it feels like it's working on such a ground level, like
But kind of like I took over because you were saying, you were like, why am I experiencing this? And like your physical pain. And I was having that of like, why are we fucking thinking about endo right now?
Yeah, of course.
But there's always a reason.
Yeah, and what I was going to say was and this is to tie into how interactive this spirit or this medicine is, whereas the facilitators were saying, if you find that you're lost and you don't know why you feel like this, try asking, and when I first heard that, I was like, what do you mean? Like
ask who?
Ask who? Like out loud? Or like
ask Ellen?
I wanted to know, like, do you mean ask out loud or do you mean ask inside my mind? And I just assumed, I guess it's ask inside your mind. And I definitely had times throughout that night of like, all right, fuck it. Like I'll ask. It's like, why am I feeling like this? And that began this interplay, this dialogue where the energy that was coming from the outside in and like pressing on my body, it felt really dynamic. Like you could begin working with it and you could begin communicating with it and somehow like nudging it energetically or asking questions of it. And it, like you said, it made your tummy rumble. Coincidence or maybe not, right? Like I experienced a lot of things throughout that night that I can't put down a coincidence. There was a real conversation happening, and I don't know if I'm pretty skeptical in a lot of ways when it comes to paranormal spirits or things like that. I'm definitely more on the day-to-day basis a prescriber of manifestations of your subconscious or your unconscious. Like if you're experiencing a demon, it's because it's a
demon inside you.
Yeah, it's a negative pattern playing out inside you that you end up kind of putting into the world that bites you. So, but after coming through this experience, I can't say that I'm like 100% not. Like there's some weird shit going on. There's definitely some weird shit going on. Correct
me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we both felt like we both had experiences where when we were, and the facilitators, all their main advice was surrender and don't fight it. Surrender, don't fight it. Don't push back, don't be resistant. And I feel like both of us had the experiences where when we were doing that, it was like this mean, scary thing. And then the moment we like it's like the moment I was open to like what they wanted to show me or teach me, no matter how they were going to do it, they got nicer, or each got nicer, she got nicer. So at the start it was like almost, it sounds weird, but it was almost like I felt like I was having really fun with my closed visuals and I was kind of like making a bit of a joke and a piss out of the situation. So she got angry and then she started giving me a really scary time. And then kind of once the moment I actually accepted, I'm scared. I didn't bargain for this. I didn't think I was going to be this scared. Like the moment I kind of like surrendered to like, okay, you've got me. This is scary and I'm struggling. And I wasn't my cocky, like, I could do these visuals all night. Then it was like, okay, she's ready to teach me now.
Yeah.
And I feel like you kind of had a similar experience just with, the moment you stop pushing back. And when you push back, it gets scarier and she's meaner. And then the moment you almost like are open to the offerings and the teachings, it does get easier.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience for me, if I can try and articulate it, because I typically in my past psychedelic experiences, I usually don't struggle mentally. You know, I'm always in like a really good state, a really good mood. Even if I'm deep in the experience, I'm always having a positive one. You know, if I'm being taught or I'm getting realizations, they're coming in a positive manner. They're not normally coming from like really difficult thoughts or traumatic sort of feelings. And my technique up until this point, maybe in life and in other psychedelic journeys, is, you know, if things start getting scary, you know, like I'm having more scary thoughts or I'm having more scary visions, I've always had the ability to just, that's all good, I'll just look over here. Yeah. And then it bounces off, you know, like scary something over there, I'll look over here and it bounces off. Oh, a scary thought in my mind over here, that's all good, I'll just look over here. And I could always just focus on the positive and navigate, just basically dodge and weave, just dodge the negative shit, not have to deal with it, and just keep on cruising. And so I've been really confident in that ability too. Like I've always thought that I could do that very well.
Yeah.
Fuck, I was wrong when it came to this, because I went in pretty confident in terms of the mental side of things as well. Like I was really nervous about being sick, but I wasn't as nervous about the mental side of things, because I was like, well, I can duck and weave. And it did the complete opposite thing to me. Like as soon as I started seeing a negative thought or like a negative or a vision or a shadow over here that was scary, when I looked the other way, it got way scarier. And then I would see something even more scary over there. And then I'm like, oh, well, I don't have to look over there. Then I would look over here and something more scary would be there. And I
face it, bitch.
Full on, dude. And until I got to a point where there was nowhere to look.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh,
God,
fuck.
that's such a teaching in itself.
So I'm like, fuck it. All good. I can outrun this. I can outrun it. I'll close my eyes. And so then my eyes are closed. And then the visuals are crazy. And all the visuals are getting really, really scary. It's fractally and shadowy, and there's tall string-like beings and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn my vision off. Like you said, the no vision. All this stuff's scary. I'm just going to turn off the mind's eye and go inward. And then the thoughts started. And then like, you know, I started getting caught up about, you know, like my body felt like sticky, and I was like, all right, it's all.
Oh, so the moment like your mind, like it's like, oh, well, fuck yeah, we'll take you to your body.
I was getting cornered, you know.
Yeah.
There was like, it was like a gang around me, and there was nowhere to move. Like everything I tried to avoid, it filled in the gap with something scary, and then I went inwards, and then there was another. I would have a scary thought. My body felt sticky, so I'm like, it's all good. Don't think about your body, Dill. It's all right. And then it's like, oh, I forgot the sleeping bag, and then that compounded into even more and more negative thoughts about myself and my life, until eventually I got to a point was like, there's nothing I can look at outside or inside or think about outside or inside that isn't fucked. like every mental tactic that I have in my toolbox to be okay,
you'd used and it wasn't working,
is not working right now. It was like an impenetrable force field beast that I couldn't take down. And I was just like, I kind of had a similar experience of like, this is fucked. Like I was almost laughing on the inside of like, this is so fucked that there's nothing I can do. But I was like,
but face it.
I was but I wasn't ready to do that yet. I was holding on for dear life, and I was sick. Like
you were not surrendering.
Yeah, and you saw me, like I was so nauseous and I was so sick.
And you were so tense. Like you were like,
I was like,
yeah.
I was like,
and you're normally just like breezy, chilling.
I'm normally chilling,
relax.
But yeah, this time I was just like, fuck. And then you saw me, I was like upside down with my legs in the air, like shaking my legs like a bicycle. I was like, I don't give a fuck how I look, like, but I'm not throwing up yet, but I don't care. I don't care how I
I'll
look.
do anything but not throw up.
I was so nervous about throwing up, and all this was happening, and it forced me. This is the one realization that I think I'll really share, because it was a massive one for me. It forced me it forced me from the outside, it forced me into this, what feels like the seat of my soul or like the seat of my mind, the central point of my brain or the central point of my soul. Within that one, there's like a little gap. There's a little space. And in that space, it can't get affected. Like that space doesn't get affected by anything. And so it forced me into this one little space in the middle where I was like, oh, if I stay in this space, it's like a barrier, like nothing can get in.
Yeah.
So I fully felt like I found that part of myself that really is like the everlasting side, like the part that isn't of this world. You know, like nothing of the world could touch this. And it was still difficult to be in that space because it was like, imagine if you had a force field just around you and on the outside of that force field there was zombies everywhere trying to get you. Like they were right there. But they can't get in. So you are fine. But I just found this space and I'm like, man, is the glass strong enough? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I'm like just in there and I'm still freaking out and I'm still sick, but I'm not sick because I was the person on the inside.
Yeah.
Like I finally found the person on the inside and I was like, fuck, like this does feel untouchable. You know, so in the midst of it just seemed shit, to be honest. So much of it seemed really shit and unnecessary what I was being put through. And then I found that and I was like, I guess this is what I was meant to find throughout this experience at this point in time, you know? And it's, you know, life's going on and life's getting crazy. We're doing more of this stuff. You're putting yourself out there more. There's more things to defend yourself from, so to speak. And so that was like a really important teaching for me. And I really found that you're right, that whole surrender that they talked about, like just, you know, lean into it and surrender. I wasn't doing that at all. And I paid the ultimate price for it. Like didn't follow
the one advice the facilitators gave you.
You know, it's good in theory, right? Like a lot of these internal tools, it's good in theory.
But also I trust that it was the way it was meant to be. As in like, you obviously were not meant to follow it. You were not meant to surrender and pay the ultimate price because that was your teachings that you needed to be taught. Like it all was the way it was meant to be.
That's really that it did feel like that in the end of like, you know,
like you didn't do it wrong. You did exactly what was meant to happen.
I was meant to fight until it put me in a place where the only thing I could do was surrender. But I don't think without going through that, the concept of letting go and surrendering, like I said, it's nice in theory and I understand it intellectually, but the concept of actually doing it, I didn't know how to do that.
Oh, I think you now know to the every cell in your body what force meets force feels like. It's always like you'll never forget now. Like you'll never forget what the pain that can arise by like resisting and, you know, force meets force. Like you learned it.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever seen those movies where like it's like a trap or something that someone gets stuck in and the walls are closing in?
Yeah, oh, they're the worst.
You know?
And they're it's normally in like the movies where it's like fucking those like fake world movies or something.
Or like Tomb Raider or some shit.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that is like the worst.
That was the feeling of like I'm getting pressed and there's no way to get out. And then at some point when you know you're going to die, you're like, fuck it, whatever. It's all good, you know? And I feel like it, in the safest possible way, it put me in like a place of so much fear to a point where it forced me to like let go in some way. So we'll see how that plays out in the future. But a really important topic that I wanted to bring to the table to touch on was just the whole concept of how ayahuasca does bring fear into the space, which I know you've already touched on it, but it really highlighted to me how it's, and I'm not saying ayahuasca is safe. I do want to touch on this before we finish up as well in terms of how safe it could be.
I mean, I think just quickly on that, like everything has risk, and that doesn't mean it's bad. You know, you might take medication that you need to thin your blood or you'll die, but there will be side effects. We love driving a car and there's airbags and seatbelts, but like you can get in a crash and die. Like that's like my take on it is everything in this world is not without risk. You know, we turn an oven on to bake it, we might start a house fire. Like, so yeah, I just don't want to leave with, I know we're going to move on and come back, but I was like, I don't want to leave with that it's not safe, but I think everything has risk. And this is another one of those things.
100%. And I think we'll tie it all together. But I'll finish this point off with the fear, which is in day-to-day life, when we experience massive amounts of fear, it's because we're in a massive amount of danger a lot of the time, you know, like something real world is happening to you that could potentially alter your life forever in some extreme way. And that's really scary, you know, whether it's a dangerous thing or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think when talking about the level of fear that is possible to experience on ayahuasca, which we did, yeah, because like there is lots of fear that's brought about every day. But yeah, we're talking like deep fear. Like fear that we felt on this is fear that we'd only ever experienced in life if like we were fronting up to fight someone to save our whole family.
100%. And, you know, you hear a lot of stories about people going through really traumatic situations in life and they end up gaining something massive out of it. You know, like I've heard stories of people almost dying, like near-death experiences where people find enlightenment and things like that. Obviously, people have near-death experiences and get incredibly traumatized as well, and they can suffer from it too. But in this particular idea that I'm talking about is I really have felt that ayahuasca has the ability to put you in a state of fear that is so great in the safest possible way to experience that. And there's a lot to be learnt from fear and the attempt of trying to overcome it or getting squashed by it. Either way, it has the ability to put that fear on you so dramatically, and then it passes and then it goes away and leaves and lets you think about it, which most other things you're dealing with much heavier consequences when you're trying to find fear like that. You know, some people go skydiving or some people fight bulls or whatever it is that they do.
Yeah, you said that perfectly, and I couldn't agree more with all of it. And, you know, some people might be like, well, why would you want to experience that fear? And, you know,
it's a good question.
But like you said, because then you can practice and learn to overcome it, and extreme fear when you're in a safe way to then learn to overcome it. And, you know, people might ask, why did we put ourselves in that position? Well, find me a fucking life that doesn't have fear.
100%.
You know, every moment of every day I would experience some fear. If it's not physical fear walking down the street just being a woman, it's, you know, public fear or social fear that you're not going to amount to anything great. Like we experience fear in all different forms every day. So, 100. You know, if there's any skeptics, so it's like, why would you put yourself in that amount of fear? Because it is, I think it's the one thing universally that everyone feels in all different ways. And it's probably the hardest thing to get over too, or to overcome. Yeah,
it's incredibly debilitating, and you're so right. And I think that is one of the biggest points for me that I've gotten out of ayahuasca so far is I wasn't expecting to go through fear. I honestly wasn't. I was expecting to have like enlightening, beautiful thoughts about existence in the world.
Yeah,
I did not fucking have that. I'm having it afterwards, after I've come out of it. But in it, If anyone listening's had a really scary dream, you know, like you've been in a dream and you're fucked up, like you missed that exam or something worse, you know, like you lost a loved one in the dream, or you did something irreversible in your dream and you fucked up, and you feel that fear, and then you wake up and you realize you didn't do it and your life's okay, and you're like, fuck yes. You know that feeling? You're like, yes, I'm so glad that was a dream. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
This was similar, except way more visceral and way more real.
Yeah.
We were going through incredible amounts of fear over different things, and then you come out of it and you're like, new lease on life. Like, holy shit. Like I've never felt fear like that. If I can get through fear like that, then the little things that deliver us far too much fear on the day-to-day basis, like answering a text message or
push shit in perspective,
picking up a phone call, or
writing that email,
asking for help, reaching out to a friend, having that conversation with a loved one. Those things are so hard and so scary for just the average person living life. That shit is so hard, but after you've gone through, like,
you went to hell and back without having to go to hell and back.
And so for me, that was I didn't understand that about ayahuasca until feeling it like that. And it's like, I've heard that because it's the teaching spirit and it's the teaching plant or teaching plants, that if you choose to believe this, what it's trying to do is transform you. It's trying to transform your spirit, and it's trying to aid in transformation. And because we do have agency and we do have an ego and we have the ability to decide, we can push against it, and you're trying to push against that transformation happening because you don't know what's happening. And that's where the pain and the fear starts to really settle in, when it's trying to change you and it's trying to show you things about your own life so you can change. And it's so painful that you're just resisting it. When I say you, I mean me. Like, I'm resisting it. And you're right. As soon as there's kind of this dialogue, this interplay that begins to happen, and you understand maybe, hey, it is trying to help me.
Yeah.
Maybe it legit is actually trying to help me right now, and you start going with the current instead of swimming upstream. And then it starts to take the pain away. It starts to take the fear away and starts to alleviate you of so much suffering in so many ways. And that can all happen in the space of like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
which is wild.
Yeah. And I think that is why so much of the teachings came, like, I was really shocked. We both were, about, like, I really thought when I was eating my dal at the end of the night or early morning that, like, that was kind of, I'd gotten everything that I was going to get from it.
Mm.
But then, as we established, like, for days and days, we were in just constant deep chat with each other and other people and realizations, and it honestly felt like we were still in it. And I believe that was, all part of the plan. So we could reflect on that fear and, almost pat ourselves on the back of, like, that was fucking scary. Like, that was one of the scariest things that's ever happened.
I agree.
And we got through it and we're okay. So, like, you might not realize it in the fear, but the lessons that come for hours, days, oh God, I want to say weeks. I'm going to say weeks. There, I said it. Weeks afterwards, like, we're still coming in hot and strong, like the messages and stuff.
Yeah, well, the facilitators said, I believe they said, if you feel like you're having realizations days or weeks or even a lifetime after, that's okay.
Yeah. But the way I feel now, I feel like I will forever be learning and evolving because of that time.
It's like it continues to work on you in some deeper level somehow. And yeah, you're so right. It was not something that I was expecting at all. Like, I came out of that going, like, Jesus, like I just got put through an unnecessary amount of trauma.
And yeah, and you were having that thing of, like, what was the point? Like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah. That's 100% how I felt. I'm like, thank God I got through that, but that was unnecessary. And the, like, putting together the pieces afterwards and having these conversations, and it's like, it feels like the software is getting updated consistently right now over the past little while. And I don't know how long that lasts for. And I can really see, like you were talking about, chronic pain or other, chronic addictions or something like that, things that sit on a real fundamental lizard brain level, essentially. I can see how people could have real physical changes from this experience that help them. Now, this isn't prescribing, this is an advice, this is just an example. Like you can't quit smoking to save your life, you know, and you go into it really wanting to smoke. I really see how it could put you through a world of smoke and a world of hell and show you every possibility of what that's going to do to you. And it's not just going to show you, it's going to make you feel like you could be dying from smoke or something like that.
Yeah.
To such a degree that when you get out of it, it's not a decision whether you're not smoking again. It's your body's already been like, nah.
Yeah.
And
I met someone that drank ayahuasca, wasn't vegan, and came out of it just, I'm vegan. The message,
Really?
the message that they got through it constantly was stop eating meat, stop eating animal produce. And like they didn't go in expecting that whatsoever. And the message they got was to stop eating meat, stop eating dairy, to go vegan. So when I met them, they were vegan, and they said that it just came out of nowhere. And when they were doing ayahuasca, and that was what they told. And it was like, even though they never thought about it before, it was like a duh. It was like a physical, couldn't stomach meat, couldn't even think of the thought of eating meat.
yeah,
So like same sort of thing about the quitting smoking. Like
I can
it had a physical reaction that lasted, well, I think it'd been 2 years when I had that conversation with them.
Yeah. I think it's a really important part of this conversation, and it's something that I personally just want to touch on is, and we talked about it a little bit previously, like would you recommend this for people? And yeah, where do you stand on how other people should do it? If you think other people should do it, or yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because it's not something that I would say lightly to anyone to do. I personally want to and think I will do it again. And I am so glad I did do it. And I trust the stars will align when it is next right for me to drink the medicine again. And I'll know when that is. I think it is a huge, huge tool for deep growth and learning and healing. But, you know, I guess if you're going to play with the big boy toys, you got to know there's a big risk of getting hurt. I guess the blunt answer is yes, I would recommend it because I do see the power in it. I honestly felt like I'd just done 3 years of therapy. Like I felt like what I got to in a point was it would have taken me 3 years of therapy to get to that. So I see the power in it. I believe in the power in it. But I don't think it is an all or nothing. It's like a one and nothing. Like it is a big, big tool to help people, but I don't think it can be used alone. I think other tools that are not as dramatic maybe need to be used before or sought after before, so then when you get to it, you can handle it. Because it is big. It is big and it is scary. And kind of like, you know, when you go drive a car, you have to do a certain amount of hours with someone else before you can drive on your own. Like, I think I would personally recommend certain blocks to do or building blocks to get to that point. Basically, I personally wouldn't recommend, like, if you've done never any, I don't want to say like growth, but like if you've never done any self-reflection, that's going to be a lot to take in, you know, 24 hours or the weeks after. Like that's a lot. So I think other smaller things for self-reflection, it could even just be being able to sit and meditate or sit in a room with, no one around you, no distractions for 5 hours on your own. Can you do that? Like, can you handle what your mind will give you in a sober state when you are on its own? And if you can't, then I don't think it's like, oh, I can't do that. So obviously I need ayahuasca. I think
it's a
tough one.
It's a hard one, right? I was just having that thought.
Because it's like, well, if you can't do that, maybe you need it more than anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think only each person can know if they're ready for that.
Yeah.
But I think there are, different building blocks that can help you with that, like meditating or even doing a breath work, which can be really, really intense and bring up stuff from your subconscious, but, might only last an hour.
Yeah.
And that it also has like a physical reaction and a physical thing which can get you used to that sort of pain. And obviously safe space, set and setting. Like who you do it with, where you do it, when you do it, so important. Like,
incredibly important.
You have to feel safe with the people that are going to hold that space for you.
Yeah.
They do an incredible job. As in, like, what if it's a good one, what they're taking on is huge. Like to take on and sit next to or sit with that pain and that trauma that is coming up for that person and trusting themselves and knowing that this person trusts them to like navigate that journey and be that, help facilitate that healing and that pain. That's huge. And if that facilitator doesn't know or doesn't think it's huge, well, then they're like probably not the right one. Like then they don't understand how big of an undertaking they are taking on. It's a huge, huge job. So probably like all that other stuff I said is kind of hard to determine. What's not it's probably easier to determine is, do you trust the facilitator that you are doing with, and do you feel safe and comfortable in the environment that you're doing it with and the other people? And we did it with a lot of other people, which has different element of fear with it. So, I think one-on-one, if you're unsure, like you and a facilitator, not around other people or in a public space, that would be 100% what I recommend. If there's hesitation, do it with a facilitator. One-on-one with a facilitator. I would never recommend, I don't think at this stage, doing it without a facilitator there, because your visuals can be so real. Like you could see a demon literally running towards you trying to grab you. Like I think it is actually like physically unsafe. Like you might, who knows what you could do. So like never do it alone. I don't think I'd ever change with that point.
It's the first plant medicine or psychedelic that I've come across that I would have to do it a lot with a facilitator before I thought about fucking with it by myself.
Yeah. They're big boy tools. Like we're talking about or dealing with things that we can't even talk about, that we can't even make sense yet to a degree. We described it as like we went to hell and back, or you went to hell and back. Like that's not an easy thing to overcome.
100%. And to touch on that, I know we said it at the start, but I want to say it for myself, which is I have no idea what other people's experiences could possibly be like. From what I've seen, the range of experience is so broad that there's a very high chance that someone could sit down and they're just surrounded by angels and like they're having the most beautiful, brilliant time and they don't suffer at all. If that's what you need, if that's what you need in your life right now, like it's like you need a warm hug and you need someone to look after you, and that happens within the trip. I think that could happen as well. But definitely being prepared for if your mind or body is ready for it, to be put through some serious paces.
Yeah. And no matter, like as I said, we've spoken about our experience, and I'm confident that next time we do it, our experience will be completely different. So going into it knowing that you might have talked to 50, 100 people that have done it, but your experience is going to be completely unique. And almost like you can't prepare for it.
100%. And another, I'll touch on.
So I guess I would recommend with caveats. Is that a good enough answer?
Yeah. I would recommend with caveats as well. Like, I would definitely recommend it. It's just not for the faint of heart. And it's not to sit here and say that, like, we're fucking amazing and we've got this incredible mentality that can handle anything. Not at all. Not at all. I think that from the things that I experienced within this trip, I could see how it could, not to scare people too much, but I think it's just for me, I think it's worth noting, like, it could fucking push you over the edge in some ways. Like, it can send you mad in some ways. Not to say it'll make you crazy forever, but like, in the moment, it can send you, it can push you over the edge of what feelings you thought were possible. And that comes with risks, just like anything. The only possible way that it can speed up or facilitate transformation is by pushing you to the edges of what you currently know. And we don't know what's on the other side of that. That's the whole point of it. Like, you don't know what is on the other side of your current understanding of yourself. And we don't know what's in your subconscious. And we're pushing buttons to find out. And so who the fuck knows? Anything's possible for a lot of people and what can happen. So I wouldn't recommend it for a lot of people. I think they did say that if you're predisposed to some different like medical diseases, or diseases probably isn't the right word, but different conditions or illnesses or mental conditions that you're predisposed to, I'm not going to go into which ones they are, then it's definitely worth a lot more consideration or thought of whether it or not you do something like that, because it just pushes you so hard to the edge. So it's,
I mean, put it this way, like you said, it's poking into the subconscious. So, which I do agree with. So put it this way, I wish we lived in a world where I could confidently say, yes, everyone do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot more people, hundreds of years ago would have been doing it more than they were doing it now. Like, we're just eating plants here. We're drinking plants. So, like, I wish we lived in a world where I could say everyone do it. But I think all our hesitation does – my hesitation comes from, like, the world's a heavy, dark place. There's a lot of shit going on. I think we just live in a time where it is riskier to poke in the subconscious. Yeah.
I think there's just, the subconscious is just a wild place. We don't know what it is. And I've seen a lot of people struggle on a lot of different psychedelics before, and, that's okay. That's all good. 99% of the times a bad trip is not a bad trip. It's just the trip that you needed that ultimately ends up with good realizations, but it's difficult at that point in time.
Yeah.
Every now and then I think people can get harmed by it. And I think you said it perfectly. It really does come down to the space and the facilitators. Like, you're in such a vulnerable position. You're literally putting your life in the hands of another person in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, and I don't do that comfortably because I don't trust people that I don't know. And I find it difficult to trust people to look after my best interests, because how could they know? They're not me. So yeah, really, I could see how in those real vulnerable moments when you're deep on an interstellar journey, what you need is support in that point in time, and not someone who's going to take advantage of you or anything like that. So I think that makes or breaks it. And you're right, a facilitator who is strong enough that they can handle, like, the fire. If you're going,
well, that's why they're there.
Yeah, you're going through some serious shit. They have the ability to sit there in it and deal and not freak out.
Yeah,
because it can be,
and energetically, like, they'll be feeling all that too.
For sure.
But yeah, I loved our facilitators.
And the music. Tell you what, can we just touch on this music for a second?
I'll let you do this, because I don't even know if I trust what I heard.
This music was wild. These facilitators are incredible musicians, incredible artists, and the music that they put together is kind of like they are channeling some other entity or some other spirit. And
you listen to so much music. You've got like 100 billion different albums on your Spotify. And I think you could say even you've never heard anything like this.
No. Well, they're doing it live, like this is straight out the stratosphere, whatever shit that they're being putting out there. And I realized with this music, and if they ever listen to this podcast, I hope I'm not making a misinterpretation of the intention of the music, but this music wasn't specifically designed to just keep you happy and chill, to say the least. Like they started off chill and they definitely end it chill with nice ethereal, spiritual sounding music that, the soundscape music, which is great and amazing. It sounds like you're in a meditation center. But in the middle of the journey, when you're coming up,
it's like pure melancholy. Melancholy? Melancholy?
It's
melancholy, where it's like eerily and I'm not going to do this justice, but that's the word. I swear that word will describe it well.
Melancholy. I like the word eerie. Like the music, for what it felt like for me, pushed me into a place that I didn't want to go. Like I didn't want to go to the dark places. I didn't want to go to the scary places willingly. And this music became so dark and shamanic and tribal and scary.
Yeah.
Fucking beautiful, but scary.
Yeah.
And loud, so loud that like you can barely hear anyone else. And to be honest, you don't want to hear anyone else because everyone else is going through a fucking nightmare. People are throwing up and people are purging and people are screaming and people are laughing. You want to focus on your own shit.
It's like a sound bath on steroids.
Craziest thing. Crazy. I did have moments where I'm there like just getting a little bit of peace to regain sanity. But at the same time, the music that they produce it drives you into this dark place to confront yourself or confront these energies that you've been avoiding potentially for 20 years.
Sorry. You keep going.
No, it's all good. All good.
I was just going to say it wasn't scary, like hard to hear. Like it wasn't bad music scary. Like it wasn't like, like that, like sound effects on movies, like, or like, like music when like
it wasn't like
the screams,
horror music.
Yeah, it wasn't like like think of your typical horror movies. Yeah, like it's like.
Or like the Jaws music wasn't like that.
Yeah, like exactly. It was still like beautiful music to listen to, but it was scary.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people thinking that like we were just there listening to
it was like different
chainsaws and like Chainsaw Massacre and like shit like that.
Different forms of like different types of chanting and different types of what's the thing that you use when you're meditating, when in your head you've got your own
mantra or mantra.
Yeah, mantras and fucking spells and shit. Like,
but beautifully done.
But beautifully done, and they're just doing all of this on the fly. They're improvising all of it, which was incredible as well. So a beautiful experience, but a harrowing one in a lot of ways. But then when they turn it around, it's beautiful. They let you off.
Yeah, you've realised that you can breathe again and you didn't even realise you couldn't breathe. It's like
Ellen, I want to say thank you so much for coming in and being so vulnerable with your experience. I know from my experience that it's really difficult to, one, be vulnerable and actually share about what you went through, but two, being able to articulate it is really, really hard because it's a whirlwind of emotions and visions and learnings and teachings and all of those things, and trying to unpack it all and talk about it in some sort of cohesive conversation is really difficult. So good job. Good job for that. I really appreciate it. These type of conversations for me are my favorite. These are the conversations that I really, really, really want to be having now and in the future as well. I think that the space for plant medicines is only just beginning in Australia, and I believe in a future where they're going to be more readily accessible and more legitimized for people to be able to use these tools and prescribe them to people in amazing ceremonial settings that can really help transform people's lives. I'm wholeheartedly, I'm a massive believer in it. I think if it's the most important thing that could exist for the health, the spiritual, emotional, physical and mental health.
Yep, I couldn't agree more.
Of our society moving forward into this, what I believe is going to be an even more enlightened age with amazing, amazing people. And I think that we are moving into an age where the focus on the organic, the focus on nature, the focus on the spiritual, the focus on the internal are the things that are going to take priority over the material and the external. So I'm really excited for the future. I think that our ability to blend technology and nature together is going to happen in a really awesome way, which I hope for. And I think that one of the spaces that is going to grow is the ceremonial plant medicine space in Australia. And I'll tell you what, if it does, I'm 100% planning on being on the forefront of that for sure, by having conversations like this and opening it up.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening at home, maybe these are things that is not new to you. Maybe it's stuff that you've heard before on other podcasts. Maybe it's something that you've never thought about before and you might have listened to this going, fuck, well, it just sounds dumb or it just sounds ridiculous. Definitely don't knock it until you try it, or if you don't try it, don't knock it, because it's a really, really, really powerful thing. And anyone who goes to try and do work on themselves in this way, in any way, I commend it, but specifically for the plant medicine space, anyone who's willing to dive into that space, give yourself over to it, show up honestly and trying to trust the process in order to transform yourself, to be able to make a better change for yourself and then the world at large. Anyone who's out there doing that, even under the restrictions that we have in Australia, fucking good on you. Good on you.
And good on you with the stigma that is heavily around it still, which like most people that are doing ayahuasca, they are just trying to better themselves and going to extreme measures because they believe in it and the power of it. And like, yeah, I think there's still such a negative stigma around it. And so it's even, harder to talk about these things and then go do it. But a lot of people are facing a lot of shit in those journeys and they come out better, and then they are better for their loved ones, their friends, like they radiate that on.
100%.
So everyone is benefiting, everyone.
Yeah, I agree. So it's a special space and I'm so thankful that I got to do it with you.
Me too.
I wouldn't have wanted to do it by myself for that occasion. I was definitely meant to be there with you. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. You held a lot of space for me in that time, and I do want to say that the presence that you brought to me and to everybody within the ceremony, I could it was a visceral feeling of the I believe that we all have feminine and masculine energies within us. However, the side of the feminine energy that you brought to me on that weekend was incredibly powerful, and I've never felt anything like that before. How in the times where I was depleted and I was wrecked and I was done, and I couldn't relax and I couldn't find I couldn't calm my nerves anywhere. It was in that moment that I realized that like you literally were the only person that had the capacity to do that. And yeah, feminine energy is the right way to put it. Like I could feel that, like it was powerful, and it was like this energy that you were putting into me, which is a really unique gift that I have not felt from a man before. So it was crazy, and I could really feel the interplay and the balance of energies between us on that weekend. So to be able to do something like this with a partner as well, a loved one, or a family member. There were people there doing it with family members. So, you know, people are transforming their lives together, which is really fucking cool. So on that account, I thank you so much. And thank you so much for being in here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on and letting me share my story and holding a safe space for me to do so and be so vulnerable. I love you.
I appreciate it. I love you. And everybody, thanks for listening. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, you're more than welcome to reach out to me.
Or me.
Yeah. Or Ellen. Particularly Ellen. In no way are we experts, but
we love to talk.
yeah. So on that note, let's leave it. Thank you. Peace out, everybody.